All right, then. So for the health facility column, I'll quickly show us the possible errors. So for the first cell here, you can see we have TBL Java. This is a health facility peculiar to Java alone. So if I scroll down a little bit, you can see we have Java TBL here, which is kind of a reverse, right? So the other one said TBL Java. This says Java TBL. So you can see a kind of an inconsistency because subsequently, while carrying out analysis, both these values will be taken as completely different things, if at all they even mean the same thing. So if I come to the PHC Rahama, PHC here stands for primary health care. But if I scroll down a little bit, I think somewhere around here it was written as Rahama PHC, which is another reverse and inversion kind of. I can see this says Rahama PHC instead of PHC Rahama. So both of these values will be taken as completely different values. Down here I have primary health care Kagoma, and down here you can see I have I think I saw, okay, you can see around here I have Kagoma Healthcare instead of Kagoma Primary Healthcare. So you can see a whole lot of inconsistencies, and sometimes you can even have spelling errors. So that is why you always need to validate most of these columns that you can predict the kind of informations that come into them. So since I know the possible health facilities that can be peculiar to Java and every other duty station, I make sure I validate their columns based on those informations and in the particular format I want it to be. So I wouldn't really be listing out all the health facilities for every local government areas. So I'll just pick specific duty stations for specific regions and list out their health facilities, probably three or so, because I think we have more than three health facilities for every local government area. So when I come to rough, you can see the first duty station I chose was Zaria. Zaria belongs to Zone 1. I can see I just chose three of its health facilities to help show an example. So you can see I decided to use the PHC format because before now, while looking at the possible error sheet, we saw that some of the PHCs were written before the actual name of the health facility. We saw something like healthcare Durumi, and this is saying Durumi primary healthcare. So I always say you must have a particular format you want each of these informations to take. So for the KD North, this belongs to Zone 2. I just took three out of its numerous health facilities. And for Kachia, which belongs to Zone 3, I took out specific health facilities that belong to Kachia and I listed them out. I can see these are the formats I want them to take. So instead of saying PHC Anqua, I want it to be Anqua Primary Healthcare in this order. So what do? I quickly name these values after after the local government areas or duty stations they belong to. So all these facilities belong to Zaria. So I name them directly after the value I can see here because I know that the duty station column is what triggers out whatever comes out in the health facility. This one will be named after Zaria, exactly like the way it was written here. And for the KD North health facilities, they'll be named exactly after how KD North was written here. So that is something like this. You can see this. Then for this health facilities, I've been naming them directly after Kachia, just like the way it was spelled here, because subsequently these informations are what will trigger out this one. So any wrong spelling is going to break everything and nothing is going to be produced. Okay, let's just make an example. So for this one, let's spell it wrongly. Let's spell it as catchy instead of kachia like this, and let's see what will happen. So enter. Good. So when I come to my solutions, I highlight this entire column. Then I come to data validation. Good. I come to this drop down, then I select list. So now I'll be making use of the indirect formula because I'll actually want the indirect of the duty stations to produce those values we named them after. So this is going to be equal indirect like this, just like what we did in the duty station LGA column. Good. So I'll clear this one. So I'll be selecting this cell. Can you see? So I'm saying the indirect of whatever is in the cell should be produced in this cell. So the indirect obviously are those health facilities I named after whatever local government area I'll be selecting here. So I want the column to be fixed, but the row should keep changing. So I take out the dollar sign here, then I close like this. So for zone one, I chose Zaria specifically. So when I come to the health facility column, you can see only health facilities that were specific to Zaria are listed out here. So if you observe, the last health facility here is saying Jakar PHC. So when I come to rough, you can see the last health facility says Jakar PHC here. When I come to the next one, which is zone two, I chose um I chose KD North. So when I select this and I hit on this, you can see we have the health facilities that are peculiar to KD North. So if I told I try to enter Kaduna North like this, you can see it is rejecting because it doesn't recognize this particular format of Kaduna North. So this is the essence of validation to help minimize inconsistencies and errors as much as possible. So I can just select any of those health facilities. Good. Now for zone three. Now observe carefully. Remember, I chose Kachia, all right? But while grouping those values, I decided to make a deliberate error by naming them Kachi. So you observe that when I come here, now I am currently clicking, but nothing is coming out because it can't find the indirect values of Kachia because I deliberately spelled it wrongly. So let me just make the correction and you can see that. So when I come back to rough, I'll quickly just name this guys Kachia. Good. I've added an A, then I enter. So when I come here, I select Kachan now. You can see it brings me here. So when I come back to my solutions, you can see on clicking this, those values are now coming out. So this is why I'm buttressing, or this is why I'm stressing the the area of the naming. You need to be careful. You need to be specific. So that whatever triggers another information, you have to make sure those informations are named directly after whatever triggers them. So if I'm selecting Kachia here, I have to name those values that Kachia will trigger directly after Kachia. That's just the point I've been making here. So I can just select Arico PHC and we are good to go. So this is just how we put in some certain measures to help minimize error as much as possible. So for the first name and surname, you see, I don't think there is any validation that can be done here or any kind of measure that can be inserted here to help minimize error as much as possible because these are the names of individuals. You cannot predict the name of every individual, right? Because I would have suggested you validate this column, but you can't certainly predict the name of every individual. So columns like this are left freely. So you just have to be careful while entering informations in these columns, right? So I can just say this person's name is John. And I can say his surname is Doe, and that is good. For other names, you can put whatever other name you feel like. So, but for the date of birth, this column can be validated because this is a working setting. This is a working environment, and there are certain age groups that are not expected to be working, and there are certain age groups that are expected to be retired. So how do we validate this column in such a way that those age groups are not collected here? So for a state like this one, it is expected you are retired once you get to the age of 60 and you can be admitted into service at an age of 18 years minimum. So we'll be validating this column based on these dates. So someone, this is 2022. So for someone to be 60 years, that person should at least be given birth to in the year 1962. And for someone to be 18 years, it's expected that person was given birth to in the year 2004. So let's quickly validate this column based on these values. So I come to data quickly. Then I come to data validation. Good. Hit on this drop down. So instead of list this time around, we are going to be making use of the date option. So when you hit on date, you can see you have a drop down here that says between. But when you click on it, you can see not between, equal to, not equal to. These are just how do you want the condition to go about. So basically, we want between the start date and end date should be what is considered. So between should be left like that. So the start date is going to be first, is going to be January 1st, 1962, because Excel takes in the month, day, year format. So this very first value here is your month, the second is your day, and the third is your year. So you consider the very first day of January 1962, and your end date should be the 31st. Should be, December 31st, 2004. So within this age, within these dates, is what should be taken. Anything outside is expected that that person is either retired or is not eligible for admission into service yet. So when I click on OK, you can see we have that. So let me quickly go back to the top and try to enter this date. So for this one, let's try to say he is actually above 60 years. So this person should, let's say he was born first 1960. You can see this is directly before 1962. So when you click on enter, you can see your column is rejected, saying this value doesn't match the data validation restriction. You can as well influence this error message. So let me cancel. So let's say he was given birth to 1st of January 5th, 1970. You can see this one is going to be collected because this falls within the range we specified in our validation, right? So for this person, let's say he's actually younger. So I can put in one, let's say 2005. This person is quite younger. So when I click on enter, you can see this value is also rejected. So this is one way we can create validations in the date of birth column. See, so when I come to the possible errors here, you can see formats were also one of the problem. You can see this one was written as year, month, day. You can see that was the format that the value in this cell was written as. So you can see so many inconsistencies. So it might not really be about the retirement and the admission into service. Sometimes it might be that the formats people enter those dates will be wrong. Somebody can decide to choose the month, day, year format to enter the information into that column. Someone can decide to use the day, month, year format. Someone can decide to use the year, month, day format. So all those inconsistencies might cause problem in analysis. So it's always best you validate this column using the date validation option so that everything in general will be taken as the month, day, year. So if I come to solutions, for example, and I say 31st, obviously this is day because a month can't expand to this particular value. So let's say this is 31st January 1965, right? And see this is rejecting it because it doesn't understand this particular format. So it only takes in the month, day, year format, right? So there is a way you can tell, you can give a hint as to the formats that should be entered in this column. So how do we do that? So you just highlight the column to be able to tell people the format they need to enter dates in this column. So you come back to your date validation. So you can see this place that says input message, right? So this is where this comes to play. So you can just say stroke dd stroke yeah. So you can see this is clearly saying month, day, year. This is the pattern in which information should be entered in that column. So when I click on OK, observe something. So when I come to the first cell and select, you can see it is obvious to anybody that the format should be taken as month, day, year. Whatever cell you click within this column will always produce this hint at the bottom like this. So this is one way to give people hints as to what to do when it comes to the date option, right? So this hint can be applied in whatever column. It's always up to you, whatever information you're trying to convey to people, right? So that is that for the date of birth column. So let us come here. So these are now the skills that I expected this healthcare worker should have or don't have. So this one says BMonk, right? This one says post-abortion care. This one says family planning, nutrition, blah, blah, blah. All right, then. But when I come to the possible errors, you can see This cell is expected to take in just two values. It's expected to take in just two values, which is 0 and 1. So it's expected that when you have a scale, 1 should be inserted in the cell. And when you don't have a scale, or when you don't have the knowledge about a particular department here, it is expected a 0 is written in place. So, but you can see somewhere around here, it was written as 2, which is an error, right? Because this is not what you're expecting. You expect only zeros and ones. And you can see because of certain measures were not put in place, you can see someone inserted a 2 here. So how do you make such validations that restricts the collection of information to this in the cells to only 0 and 1s, right? So I come back to my solutions here. So the same thing applies to every other column here. It takes in a 0 and 1 value. 1 stands for knowledge of the skill or you possess the skill, while 0 stands for you don't have it or you are not knowledgeable about the particular skill. So what I'll do is I'll be validating those columns. So quickly just highlight every column you can see here. Good, because they all take in the same value. So you come to your validation like this. So come to settings, click this drop down, and you can see we have a whole number option. So since it takes only zeros and ones, this means we should be validating based on whole numbers. So when you select the whole number, you can see between is the option we'll be using because the minimum we'll be giving to this is 0 and the maximum is 1. So we're saying receive whole numbers between 0 and 1, including the 0 and 1s themselves. So this is what we need. Then for the input message, we can just give them a hint as to what they should be inserting. So let's say 0 equals no skill, right? And let's say 1 equals skilled, right? This is just a hint. For your error alert, you can also influence this if you want. So it's always advisable you do all these things at once instead of having to validate and then coming back to insert your input message and your error alert. So it's best you just do everything all at once, then this is reflected. So let me just put in invalid as the error alert. Good. And this is okay. Then I hit on this. So let me just go back quickly to the top and try to enter anything. So you can see selecting one of these cells, you can clearly see the hint saying 0 equals to no skill and 1 equals skilled. So if I put 4, for example, and enter, you can see this is producing invalid, saying this value is not recognized or is not within the data validation range. So, but if I put in something like 1 and enter, you can see this is collected. So this is just how it goes about. You can see every cell produces the hint saying 0 equals to no skill and 1 equals to skilled. If I put something like 8 here and enter, you can see this error message just pops up and says invalid. So these are just certain ways you can, restrict the collection of errors as much as possible in templates and databases like this one. So just leave your questions in the comment section below so I can be responding to whatever problems you're coming across while developing your own template. I remain Alkali Shepherd, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. This is Forefront Analytics and Resources. Thank you.